the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came to be through him, and without him nothing came to be. What came to be through him was life, and this life is the light of the human race. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came to be through him. But the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, but his own people did not accept him. But to those who did accept him, he gave power to become children of God. To those who believe in his name, who were born not by natural generation, nor by human choice, nor by a man's decision, but of God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we saw his glory. The glory as of the Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
The question we have kind of before us today is the question of where Jesus is from. And that's really what Christmas is about, is where is Christ from? That's the question they asked. So when I was in seminary, I don't know how much you all know about seminaries, right? Seminaries where you go to study to be a priest. Believe it or not, like, we are normal people too. But anyway, basically what they do is they take about 120 guys and they lock them up together for 7 years and hope that it turns out okay. But one of the things we found in seminary is that you can tell a lot about someone by where they're from. And during my 7 years in seminary, for some reason people always think I'm from Boulder. I'm not. I think it's because I like to wear sandals and I was a runner. But my friend Father John and I, we were kind of labeled as like the Colorado guys. You know, Colorado guys wear fleeces and they like being in the mountains and these kinds of things. But we had culture wars in the seminary. We had guys from other states and they just did things differently. And so the biggest kind of opponents in our culture war were the Wisconsin guys. And the Wisconsin guys, they were just kind of obsessed with cheese curds and neon lights. And we won't even get into the Fargonauts, the guys from Fargo. But there are all kinds of different ones. The guys from Kansas were great. Some of my friends from Kansas in seminary, they actually refused to call our state Colorado. They would only refer to it as New Kansas. And they just loved that. I was like, But you can tell something about someone from where they're from. Where you come from says something about who you are. And the real question today in the Gospels, and all four really, the question of the Nativity and the question that will run not just actually in Nativity stories and the stories of Christ's birth, but it's a question that goes all through the Gospels, and indeed, brothers and sisters, it's a question that every one of us must ask. And the question is, Jesus, where are you from? Where did you come from? The natural kind of answer that most people, of course, had all through the Gospels was Jesus came from Nazareth, up in Galilee in the north of Israel, which is it's a rural area, and it's something that no one was impressed by. But the question of where you're from is intimately bound up with the question of who you are. When Jesus is on trial before Pontius Pilate in John chapter 18, you can just feel right underneath the surface of the text, the question Pilate is wrestling with is, Where is this man from? In John 7, here's one of the things we hear. This is John chapter 7, verse 27. And some of the Jews are speaking and they say, we know where this man comes from. But when the Christ appears, no one will know where he comes from. Brothers and sisters, obviously on Christmas we get a lot of people who don't normally come to Mass. But whether that's you or whether you're someone who's here every Sunday, there's a question that we have to ask if we're going to really engage the question about Jesus Christ. And it's that question. Where are you from? That question hasn't gone away. And the way you answer that question will radically affect the way you live your life. Most people today, I think, want to say, well, Jesus, maybe not most of us, but a lot of people want to say Jesus was a normal human being, but he was wise. Right? He was someone who was a Jew of the first century. And yes, he did some amazing things, but he was another human being. It's really miraculous if you think about it that anybody's a Christian. It's pretty amazing. Those who are like, what did he just say? Are we at church? But it is, if you think about it. People in the ancient world were not unintelligent. But somehow, a very large group of people in the ancient world came to understand that that man was not merely from Galilee and was not merely from Nazareth, but that he was from heaven. The only way they ultimately knew that was because of the resurrection. And that's why today's feast is very closely tied to the cross and resurrection, but we'd be here too long if we went through all that. Jesus, where are you from? Who are you? If you come to a place in your life where you say you're from God, that radically changes everything. An interesting piece of information in the Gospels, we have 4 Gospels, right? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and Jesus is speaking all the time. And he says all kinds of things. Jesus uses the word Father hundreds of times in the Gospels. But never once does he ever use the word Father for St. Joseph. Not a single time. Why? Because Jesus' father, and that's what we celebrate today, Jesus' father was not Joseph. His father was God. And it's very clear in the Gospels. Mysterious, beautiful, powerful. The church father says, so why did Jesus do this? Why do we have Christmas? What is the big deal? And the church fathers had this great phrase that they said over and over. The church fathers, by the way, are the earliest bishops and priests of Christianity. And what they said, and we find it lots of times in their writings, they say the Son of God became the Son of Man so that the sons of men might become sons of God. Hear that again. The Son of God became the Son of Man so that the sons of men might become the sons of God. The Son of God became a human being. He became a human person. That's a heresy. He became a divine person with a human nature. Most of you don't even know why that's heresy, but that's another story. But he became a man. He became a part of our family so that we could be adopted into God's family. That's a huge statement. And whatever you're at, whatever place you're at in life, brothers and sisters, my encouragement to you this morning is to really ask that question. For some of us, there's something in Jesus Christ that we have seen and experienced. Something mysterious that says, this was more than just a wise teacher. There's something in here in him that speaks to the mystery of reality and of human life. There's something of God in him, which is amazing. That's what Christmas is about. In our gospel today, in John chapter 1, I hope you heard this. It's a great line. And so it says in John 1, it says, to all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God. Now think about that. Right? The world tells you your identity, right? Just like the identity of Jesus is mysterious, the world tells us our identity is bound up in where you're from, which is good, right? There's good in the places you come from. But the world limits it and says who you are is kind of your history, and your accomplishments, and the size of your bank account. But all of us know that's not true. If we look at our own lives, we know there's something deeper. And John is telling us that if we have faith in Jesus Christ, that our real identity is not in our past and our accomplishments or our failures. But that like Christ, we are children of God. There's something deeper there. Finally, I want to talk just briefly this morning. Today's also a day, one of the reasons we celebrate today, today's a day of new beginnings. Right? We just need that sometimes, don't we? That's why we like New Year's. Right? New Year's Eve comes and everybody's like, okay, what's your New Year's resolution, right? And like mine's to like grow my hair back and get washboard abs and things like that. Everybody has these kind of New Year's resolutions. And they're fine, they're good, because we want a new start. We want a new lease on life. We want to say my past doesn't define me. I want to start over. Well, last night I wanted to communicate this to our 4:30 Mass. And our 4:30 Mass, by the way, we chose the right Mass. 4:30 and 10 p.m. last night were packed. The 4:30, there were like people 3 rows deep going up and down the aisles, and it was crazy. But we get a lot of people who don't normally come to church. And so the priest can kind of pick which gospel reading he wants to use. So I chose the genealogy from Matthew, right? Which is the one that's, let me read it just briefly to you. Because I know you're missing out. Man, I wish that was ours. You know this one. Abraham was the father of Isaac, Isaac the father of Jacob, Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers, Judah the father of Perez and Zerah by Tamar. And it goes on and on and on. And by the time you hit this part, where is it? Solomon, the father of Rehoboam, Rehoboam, the father of Abijah, and Abijah, the father of Asa, Asa, the father of my favorite and yours, Jehoshaphat. By that point, they're all like, this is why I don't come to church. And yes, I really did choose that reading intentionally. Here's why. Here's why. Matthew's gospel and that genealogy, there are 42 names. And that might not seem like a big deal to you. Matthew makes a big deal out of it. Here's why. In the Bible, the number 7 is a very, very important number. It's the number of creation. It's the number of family. It's covenant. We use that number when we talk about relationships and covenants and families. And it's also the number of perfection. So 7's a big deal. Well, Matthew tells us he's intentionally given us 6 sets of 7. Why would he do that? Here's the point. That list, that genealogy with Jehoshaphat and Abijah and Asa, Uriah, all these people, is a very broken story. If you know that story of the Old Testament, you know the stories that go with those names. It is a broken, wounded history, just like the story of mankind in general. And if you're anything like me, maybe like your story. But Jesus is the first name in the 7th age. Which for Matthew means
there's a new beginning. Isn't that good news? I think right now in our country people feel that. We need a new beginning. Matthew is telling us that in Jesus Christ, all of humanity has a new start. All that brokenness, all the sin, all the ways that we choose to love ourselves more than God and more than others, that if you love this man and in him and because of what he would do in his life, there's a new beginning. That's why Christmas is not just nice, it's sacred. Because it's a new foundation for all of us. And I want to leave you with one quote. Maybe that's you this morning. Maybe whether you're someone who's here all the time and you're a devout Catholic, whether you're someone who has lots of questions about God, all of us need new beginnings. And so do I. That's what Jesus offers us. And there's this beautiful quote in 2 Corinthians 5:17. St. Paul says this. He says, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away, the new has come. That's the invitation this morning. Brothers and sisters, wherever you're at in your life, what if today was different? What if today you actually said, Lord, I don't have the answers. I don't know if all this is true or not. But there's something beautiful and compelling, and I'll take a chance. And the promise of Jesus Christ is that, brothers and sisters, if you can do that, if you can make a prayer of faith and somehow surrender your life to Him, you too can have a new creation, a new beginning.